Hare Krishna. So, Hare Krishna, dear devotees, and welcome to this morning's program. So, today we are going to be reading from the Transcendental Diaries, and before we do that, we'll just chant Jai Radha Madhava. Jai Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Kunja Bihari, Jaya Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha, Jaya Girivardhari, Jaya Girivardhari. Girivardhari, Jaya Girivardhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha, Jaya Girivardhari, Jaya Girivardhari. Jaya Girivardhari, Jaya Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana, Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana, Jamuna Tira Vanachari, Jaya Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha, Jaya Girivardhari, Jaya Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana, Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Jaya Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama. Jaya Radha, Radhanat Radha, Radhanat Radhe. Jaya Radha, Madhav Radha, Madhav Radhe. Jaya Nitai Gaura Hari, Nitai Gaura Hari, Gaura Hari. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Shri Shri Radha Radhanath ki jai, Shri Giriraj Govardhan ki jai, Shri Nitai Gaura Hari ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So Hare Krishna, dear devotees, and welcome to this morning's program. We are reading from the Transcendental Diaries, Srila Prabhupada's Leela. And we are reading chapter 5. It's volume 3, chapter 5. And this is Prabhupada in Paris and New Mayapur. So it's the 4th of August, 1976. And after rising late, quite late, at 7:30 a.m., Srila Prabhupada called me, and this is written by His Grace Harisori Das. So Srila Prabhupada called me and told me to make him some bada, asking if I still had the dried neem leaf powder that he had me make before he left Bombay in April. He hadn't requested it until now, and I was glad that I still had it in my suitcase. So he told me to mix 3 parts dal paste to 1 part neem for his breakfast. The mix was dark green, making him think that there was too much of neem. He ate some, but complained it was too bitter. Later on, though he called me again, he smiled and said it had actually done some good. He requested a repeat of the same formula for tomorrow morning, except that instead of the deep-fried balls, he wanted some patties lightly fried on each side in a shallow pan. So we see here that Prabhupada had a lot of faith in Ayurveda. And actually, Prabhupada was an expert Ayurvedic practitioner. The way he instructed all the temples that they should have their last meal at around 2 o'clock, and if they want to in the evening, just have a milk prasad. So if we look at today, the trend, in fact, I think it's now creating such a hype of intermittent fasting. Today there's so much of talk about intermittent fasting, but where does that come from? It actually comes from Ayurveda. If we look at how Prabhupada had instructed all his disciples to have their last meal at around 2, that is when the sun is at its highest, and we digest our meals with the sun. So, like that, Prabhupada, he gave us all these Ayurvedic injunctions to follow without giving it a name. So he was the expert Ayurvedic practitioner and trained us in that way. So even to this day, all the temples follow that instruction. You have your last meal at around 2. Between noon is between 12 and 2. That's when the sun is at its highest and your digestion is at its peak. So thereafter, if you want to have something in the evening, it's recommended to have milk prasad. So that is according to Ayurveda as well. And we also note that Prabhupada's massages, he spoke about that, and in Ayurveda, it said that as you grow older, your body builds up vata. Vata is a lot of air, accumulation of air in your body. And we know that through Prabhupada's pastimes of these massages, there's so many instructions that he gave his disciples during those massages. So he was the expert Ayurvedic practitioner, and through his actions and activities, we can imbibe these for our health purposes as well. So continuing, this is on August the 4th, 1976. Yogeshwara Prabhu introduced a French naval commander from Corsica, Mr. Marchand, along with his wife and 2 children to Srila Prabhupada this afternoon. After meeting the Sankirtan devotees, they were inspired to read Prabhupada's books, and now they chant japa, follow the regulative principles. So the entire family were respectful and honored to meet personally with Srila Prabhupada. So Vishwambar Das, the new Mayapur temple president, acted as the interpreter while Prabhupada chatted with them, encouraging to read the Bhagavad Gita. He began by comparing Mr. Marchand's position with that of Arjuna. So we generally speak that Arjuna was military commander. So before understanding Bhagavad Gita, he was commander and was understanding. He remained a commander, but he became Krishna conscious. So this prompted Mr. Marchand to ask how he should conduct his affairs now that he has come to Krishna consciousness. He explained that he is living 2,000 miles away from devotees. So he wondered how to participate in worldly activities and still be a devotee. So Prabhupada told him to study the 7th through to the 12th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, and in particular, the 9th chapter. The 9th chapter, anybody knows? Transcendental knowledge, right? Not transcendental knowledge, the king of knowledge, Raja Vidya, Raja Goyam. So he asked Vishwambar to read out the first verse and translation of chapter 7. Prabhupada then said that if there were any difficulties, Mr. Marchand could inquire from him. He says he admires you very much for the work you have done in spreading this message all around, Vishwambar said, and especially the fact that you have made it clear that anyone can understand. So, let him come join and help, Prabhupada said good-naturedly. He says, as much as he can, he will. So Prabhupada said, grinning, why as much? Why not fully? The devotees cheered and encouraged, Hari Bol, and the merchants laughed. Right? So we see that always the businessmen, they are keen to take up Krishna consciousness, but sometimes there is this reluctance to give it up fully, give up their businesses fully and take to Krishna consciousness fully. Now there's an amusing pastime in Chennai when Prabhupada was on the train, and a few businessmen, they approached Prabhupada. And Prabhupada was seated in the coach, and a few of his disciples were seated with him, and they all approached and they said, Swamiji, Swamiji, please give us your blessings. Now these are businessmen. And so Prabhupada looked at them, and of course, he wasn't impressed. So they asked him a second time, please give us your blessing. And then Prabhupada pointed to all his disciples, and he said, if I give you my blessings, this is what you will become. Right? And slowly, they all slowly eased, they went away, they made excuses that they had to go and do other things. So we see that people are not very, very keen on surrendering fully and taking up this Krishna consciousness in a serious matter. And Prabhupada was aware of that. So, he didn't, he was aware, and he didn't cut any corners, he didn't take any shortcuts. He wanted people to take Krishna consciousness seriously. So, continuing from there, Prabhupada is saying, Bhagavad Gita is a book which can guide the whole human society. Prabhupada told him, in different branches of knowledge, namely in politics, in sociology, in religion, in culture, in philosophy, in economics, everything, all lines are described very vividly, and the human society can take advantage of it. The Bhagavad Gita begins in the battlefield with politics, and when Arjuna declined to fight, how Krishna chastised him. And he said, Kutastu kashmalam idam visham samupastitam. That is chapter 2, text 2. How have these impurities come upon you? So Krishna, he was chastising Arjuna. So incidentally, when we look at the Bhagavad Gita, why did Krishna choose Arjuna? I mean, there were so many other Brahmins that he could have chosen, sannyasis, so many other disciples or devotees that he could have chosen to speak Bhagavad Gita. So why did he choose Arjuna? Because Arjuna was a common person, a practical person that is engaged in prescribed duties. And Krishna, he wanted to reveal to the world that you can be Krishna conscious and still engage in your duties. If he gave it to, say, a Brahmin or one of his devotees, a fully fledged devotee that's surrendered to Krishna, then for the common person to absorb or to take Bhagavad Gita seriously would be a problem, because they would say that this is for devotees, this is for Brahmins. Right? So that's why Krishna chose someone outside of that community so that everyone can understand that Bhagavad Gita is for each and every person in society. Right? So, continuing, this is the beginning of Bhagavad Gita where, Krishna chastises Arjuna. How have these impurities come upon you? And again, Vishwambar, that's the temple president of New Mayapur, he was the translator. So he is translating, and he read out the verse, and translation from the French edition of the Gita. So what is the difficulty in understanding? So Prabhupada is asking Vishwambar to now ask the visitors, Mr. Marchand and family, what is the difficulty in understanding? Ask him. This is military. Krishna is asking that you are in the battlefield. Where from has this cowardice mentality come? This is the beginning of Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita teaches us how to be a brave hero in the battlefield. This is the instruction. Then he asked for the purport to be read out. So Prabhupada was straightforward. He was straight to the point. Right? And at the end of it, rather than ask some specific question, Mr. Marchand took the advantage of this darshan to praise Srila Prabhupada. He found it very admirable that from a small verse he was always able to find something new and wonderful to say about it. He appreciated that as Prabhupada goes from verse to verse, the complexity of what he explains is always new and wonderful to read. He found it wonderful that, I'll read that again. He found it wonderful how he could expand 2 lines into 3 pages. Now, and we appreciate this about Prabhupada as well, because never before has there been such clarity on who God is, descriptions of God's pastimes. So Prabhupada was adamant when they were registering ISKCON as the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, because he wanted the entire world to know who God is. Who God is? Nah, right? They could have just said International Society for God Consciousness, but no, Prabhupada was adamant that the society, the entire world, should know that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Right? So Mr. Marchand appreciated that there were many things to understand about Krishna. Right? So Prabhupada thanked him humbly and added with a smile, I can go on more, but I have made shortcut. Krishna is unlimited, so he can be described unlimitedly, but we have no unlimited patience. Right? And we do not always have the capacity to understand. So he felt that when the soul is pure, this is Mr. Marchand now, he felt that when the soul is pure, these things will be understood automatically. However, at present, because we are far away from that state, he felt that Prabhupada's commentaries were needed to bring us closer to Krishna. And Prabhupada nodded, yes, this is the first study of Krishna, ABCD. When we learn Bhagavad Gita, then we can have a glimpse of some idea of Krishna, and then we go forward on to Srimad Bhagavatam. So Mr. Marchand said he greatly admired the fact that Prabhupada had created disciples who were courageous in presenting his message. While smiling, he said that even though at first he was opposed to them, they were always peaceful and very nice to him. And in this way, they brought him slowly to Krishna consciousness. Now, I think there's a pastime once that Prabhupada, one of his disciples were complaining that in India, the devotees, they push. And you know, if you've been to any of the temples in India, you would have experienced that. And so Prabhupada smiled and he said to the disciple, slowly nudge them to Krishna consciousness. Because he knew that in India, the devotees are naturally Krishna conscious. Right? So we just have to give them a little nudge to become more serious. So Mrs. Marchand, okay, wait, hold on. Prabhupada liked to hear that. This is a preaching method Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has recommended. Srinad api sunichena, this is the method of the preacher, to always be humble. Right? Mrs. Marchand also had a question. She wanted to know if it was recommended for women to take sannyas. Now, this is a controversial subject nowadays, but Prabhupada's instructions were very clear. Right? Prabhupada described that in the Vedic system, women are protected. They stay under the care of their father, then the husband, and then grown-up children, nothing more. Shri Shri Radha Radhanath ki jai, Shri Giriraj Govardhan ki jai, Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So, Prabhupada was adamant that women, they are always protected. In the early ages, in the younger days, they are protected by their father. And then when they enter Grihastha ashram or the householder life, they're protected by their husbands. And then when the husband is no longer there, he's probably gone off to Vanaprastha or he takes sannyas, then they're protected by their elder children. So, women are always protected. And Prabhupada said nothing more. This is the Vedic culture. So in response to her query about the fate of women who are alone, Prabhupada said that a woman should never be left alone. Just as a child is always provided for, similarly, a woman should always be protected. There is no independence for a woman. Still, in India, it is going on. The father is obliged to find a suitable husband for the daughter and give her in his charge. Then his responsibility is finished. Until that, he is responsible to take care of his daughter. But today, there seems to be so few husbands, Yogeshwara said. So, Prabhupada replied, he says, because you do not train the boys to be qualified. You train them to be debauched. Prabhupada replied, what can be done? You train them for brahmachari. Then they will be responsible husbands. Both the girls and the boys should be trained up. Then they will be responsible husband and wife and live peacefully. In their young days, if you give them freedom, they'll spoil. Youthful days, if you give them full freedom, they will be misguided and spoiled. So, now we look, Prabhupada here, he's speaking about the Varnashram system. And in the Varnashram system, it's a system that literally is created by Krishna. If you study Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Prabhupada explains quite elaborately in his purports how the Varna Ashram system is scientifically designed for every member of society. And there we have the 4 Varnas, the 4 Ashrams. The 4 Varnas, Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Sudra. And in that stage of life, each person has a different he has a different varna, he has a different category. Like you have the Kshatriyas, you have the Vaishyas, they all belong to that group. And if they serve the Lord within that group, then they become purified. They needn't have to do anything else, just serve within their different category, right? And then you have the 4 ashrams, that is the brahmachari, grihastha, vanaprastha and sannyas. Now, these are different stages of life. So the first 25 years, a young boy or a young girl is trained up in this brahmachari ashram. And then if they choose, they can go and enter into grihastha life. So whatever they've learned in this brahmachari life, then they put it into practice in grihastha life. And then from that, together, they will serve the Lord. As husband and wife, they serve the Lord. And then once they reach round about 50, they slowly start detaching from the family life. The husband and the wife, they will detach from family life and they will enter vanaprastha ashram, where the husband will slowly leave home to engage in service of the Lord. And the wife, she will support her husband. And then at the age of 75 or somewhere closer to that, he enters sannyas, where he fully takes on service of the Lord, completely detached from family life. Now, and the wife, she remains at home, but completely detached, under the shelter of her eldest son or eldest child. So, this Varna Ashram system is so perfectly designed for human society, and if we follow this Varna Ashram system, then there is no reason why we cannot become Krishna conscious and engage in our prescribed duties, and at the end of our lives, go back home, back to Godhead. Because it is a foolproof system, and it's designed by Krishna. And Prabhupada, he had endeavored, but he always said that he hadn't had enough time to actually reintroduce this system to society. But it's a perfect system, and we can follow that system and perform our prescribed duties and eventually go back home, back to Godhead, using this system, because it's foolproof and it's something that was created by Krishna. So, continuing, Mr. Marchand asked that since families are so broken up in the Western countries and women sometimes cannot find a qualified husband, what should they do? So Prabhupada is saying that there is society, you can train them. You have children, you train them in that way. Train them in that way? The Varna Ashram system. Train them in that way so that eventually they will become more responsible adults and engage in activities with Krishna in the center. So whatever is done is done. Now you can make a very good society, a Krishna conscious society. So it's not that one mistake has been done and you cannot continue. We should rectify it. This is what Prabhupada is saying. Rectify it. Explaining that modern leaders, not knowing the aim of life, are living blindly like animals. He said, I think that in the Bible there is a story, prodigal son. Prodigal son. So we are prodigal son. We are sons of God. Now we have become prodigal sons. What is the meaning of prodigal? Without any responsibility, is it not? So basically he's saying, do whatever you like. That's a prodigal son. So Harisori says, I looked it up in the dictionary. It says prodigal means recklessly or wasteful. So Prabhupada fastened up on the description with gusto. That's it, he said. We are all recklessly wasteful sons of God. We are sons of God, there is no doubt. But at the present moment, recklessly wasteful. Now he's talking to this Mr. Marchand and his wife. We are wasting our valuable life. We are so reckless. So this Krishna consciousness movement is to check their recklessness and bring them into senses of responsibility, going back home, back to Godhead. But people are so reckless that as soon as you speak something of God, immediately they laugh. Oh, what is this nonsense, God? This is supreme recklessness. India was very serious about God. Still, India is serious. Now, the present leaders, they are thinking that Indians are spoiled, simply thinking of God. They are not thinking like the Americans and the Europeans for economic development. So this is the position, and it is very difficult. But still, we can do something about this to the humanity by preaching this Krishna consciousness movement. And those who are fortunate, they will take it up seriously. So this is Prabhupada preaching to this Mr. Marchand and his wife. And here we see that he's talking about the leaders in the American and European society that are more focused towards material life. They are not really interested in spiritual life. But those that were interested, where did they go? They went to the east. They went to India. And we see now in India, there's the spiritual revival. There is, every part of India, you see the spiritual revival. And it's taking India like storm. Even the Prime Minister himself is a spiritual leader. And through him, the country, India, is progressing so nicely, both spiritually and materially. India is now becoming one of the fastest growing economies in the world. And it has its spiritual realizations as well. So this is what Prabhupada wanted for society, for leaders to be spiritually realized. And then they can lead society and make their citizens become God conscious. Right? So citing the discovery of petroleum and the subsequent manufacture of millions of cars to burn it up as an example of recklessness, he said, and when it is finished, then they cry. Then it will be finished. This is going on, recklessness. So basically, the material life is a reckless, wasteful time of energy and time. So overindulgence in sex is another recklessness. It was like a boy who inherits his father's property and then squanders it. He said, use it. The sooner it is finished, that's all. There is some strength in the body, and as soon as it gets a little taste for sex life, oh, spend it, spend it. Whole energy is spent, and the brain becomes vacant. This is recklessness. Beginning from the 12th year, by the 13th year, everything is finished. Then he is impotent. And so we see that the Varna Ashram system, Prabhupada was speaking about how thorough it was in training youngsters and preparing them for life. Right? And now, if you look at here from a scientific point of view, Prabhupada is speaking about spending all the energy. It is said that semen is made from chyle. Chyle is one of the very, very subtle ingredients that's found in bone marrow. And when all of that is used up, then here he's speaking about the brain becomes vacant. Actually, many of the mental diseases that we have such a surge now of mental diseases, dementia and forgetfulness, all of that is due to excessive use of this chyle that is from your bone marrow. So it's important for us to understand how to use those ingredients that Krishna has given us. And here, Prabhupada is speaking about not spending all your energy wastefully, because it is said that if you spare or save the semen, actually those that do become very, very intelligent. They preserve their semen, and it's also mentioned that those that do preserve their semen actually prolong their life. So, how scientific is the Varna Ashram system, teaching us, training us for our future lives, or to maintain a very healthy life, both in body and in spiritual realization. So, Prabhupada is continuing. He said in his childhood, or 80 or 100 years ago, there were no cars. Now there are hundreds and millions. 100 years ago, they could do without a motor car. Now they cannot live without a car. In this way, unnecessarily, they are increasing bodily or material necessities in life. And this is recklessness. So once again, the material scientists took the brunt of his criticism, declaring them to be rascals for misleading society by promising that they will overcome the laws of nature. He condemned them strongly. Stupidity. Do the scientists not say like this? We are trying to overcome. Rascal. They never will be able to do that. But this rascaldom is going on. And they're applauding. Oh, very good, very good. Now you are going to the moon planet. But after all endeavor, the grapes are sour. It is not useful. So Prabhupada is quoting that story. I think it's Aesop's Fables or something. That's it. You'll all, he's talking to this Mr. Marchand and his family. He says, you'll all know the story. There was once a jackal, and he wanted grapes, but the grapes were too high, and he was jumping and jumping, and when it was a failure, he said, oh, it's useless. These grapes are too sour, so they're no use. And then he shook with mirth. So they are doing like that. The jackals are jumping, that's all. And we can see that these rascals are jumping uselessly. So we are warning people not to follow these silly jackals. Be prudent and be Krishna consciousness. Be Krishna conscious. This will make your life successful. So then Yogeshwara introduced another guest, a young African from Ivory Coast, Bhakta Ulain. He explained that he was trying to start Krishna consciousness in his country. Prabhupada advised him to first stay here for some time before attempting to go out and preach. Because every one of us, we have followed these silly jackals. Now we have to follow Krishna. Janma sartaka kari, karapara upakar. This is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's advice. First of all, let your personal life be successful. Then try to do good to others. Right? So all of us, Prabhupada has given us very, very specific instructions. The morning program, observe Mangal Aarti, follow the regulative principles, chant your 16 rounds. If you do all of that and perform that, then we can go out into society and preach to others. So this is what he was explaining to this youngster as well. He said, then you can do something. Sarva dharmam parityaja mam ekam sharnam vraja. We have to follow Krishna alone, not these rascals. Right? Silly jackals. Krishna can give you all guidance in all respective necessities of life. There is everything complete. We haven't got to follow these silly jackals. So there is a nice place. You stay here, forget these silly jackals, and take to Krishna alone or his devotees. Then you can start very nicely a center anywhere. That is the duty of everyone. We should open hundreds and thousands of centers all over the world. But one who is going to open them up, he should first of all be trained. Right? So then Ulain said that he was himself convinced about Krishna consciousness, but he wondered why only 2 temples were open in Africa. And Prabhupada explained that it was because of the language difficulty. Still, he felt that by distribution of prasadam and chanting, the language barrier could be overcome. Yet, even this simple program required qualification. Who is chanting? He must be a sincere devotee. Then this chanting will be effective. Right? So, here Prabhupada is quite clear that we should all have a rigid Krishna conscious program, perform our duties, perfect our Krishna consciousness, and then go out into society and preach. And in that way, you'll be able to convince others, because the underlying factor is purity is the force. If you remain pure, then you are able to attract others into Krishna consciousness. And here he's saying a gramophone machine will not do. A gramophone machine is the recorders, right? Just playing out a Krishna conscious CD or just Sankirtan bhajans, that will not do. We need to literally sing the Maha Mantras. So a gramophone machine will not do. He must be realized, then his chanting will be effective. Now this is for every devotee. He must be realized, then his chanting will be effective. Then he will be able to make devotees, right? Satatam prasanga mama virya samvido bhavanti hrit karna rasayana kata. He must behave like a pure Vaishnava. Then if he chants, his chanting will be effective. Just like electricity. If I am surcharged with electricity, I touch. Then you also become electric. So that's such a vivid example now. If somebody has this Krishna consciousness, this purity within himself, and if he goes out and he speaks to others, he will be able to give them that Krishna consciousness in a pure way. Right? So Srila Prabhupada is speaking about electricity. Like if somebody is electrocuted, if somebody has this electric charge, and if he touches another person, that person will then become charged as well. So Krishna conscious is like that as well. You fully Krishna conscious, and then you can spread it out to others. Right? And if one is not in touch with electricity, then he will not act. So one must become electrified. Then if he touches somebody, he will be electrified. If there is no electricity, simply there is no touching. He will not do. Right? So if we are not practicing Krishna consciousness, practicing sincerely, how are we going to convince others? So here Prabhupada's instructions are very explicit that we need to be very, very careful and watchful over our Krishna conscious activities. Then he goes on to say, now this is this Ulain. Yet despite his admonitions to wait until he was fully trained, when Ulain said that the president of the Ivory Coast was very favorable to our movement, has Bhagavad Gita and wants to open a center there, Prabhupada told him, immediately do it. I am simply explaining the process, but do it immediately. Krishna will give you the power. If you are sincere, you will be electrified. There is no doubt. So, yeah, if the leaders are Krishna conscious, then Prabhupada gives the instruction immediately. Go and practice, preach Krishna consciousness to them. Otherwise, stay within the temple and become purified. So here these are contradicting instructions, but the most important thing is that if the leaders are purified, then Krishna consciousness can spread quite rapidly. Right? So in anticipation of the installation of Sri Sri Krishna Balaram, the number of devotees waiting for Prabhupada's garden darshan had increased. This afternoon, several hundred eager men and women were waiting with great expectation to see his divine grace. Srila Prabhupada walked through the vegetable gardens and sat on the grassy verge as yesterday. The devotees crowded around him, sitting cross-legged in a semicircle. Those on the periphery stood to get a better view. After a brief kirtan, Pradumna read out the verse and translation of Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, text 24, and Harikesha read the purport. Without any initial lecture, Prabhupada went straight into question and answer session. Yogeshwar Prabhu said that sometimes the material energy is described as being different from the spiritual, and sometimes it's said that all the energies are ultimately spiritual. So what is the understanding? Srila Prabhupada gave the example of electricity, which is used to both heat and cool things. It is the same energy, but it's used differently. Krishna says he is the source of everything, but still he describes the energy as separated. Just as I'm speaking in the dictaphone, after some time, without me, it will speak exactly like this. So I am speaking. I am not present there. Similarly, material world means it's being conducted by Krishna, but still Krishna personally, he is not present. So, how is Krishna present? Through his energies. Now, there's the external energy we know as Maya, and then the internal energy, which is the Hladini Shakti. But deeper than that, we understand that Maya is also Krishna's energy. So it's also part and parcel of Krishna. And this Maya that keeps us trapped within this material world, if she sees that somebody is serious, somebody has taken to Krishna consciousness seriously, then her role changes. Then she starts helping one. She encourages that person and makes his path clear so that he can engage in Krishna consciousness. So, while we say that Maya is Krishna's external energy, it's still Krishna's energy and it's spiritual. So it's part and parcel of Krishna. So he said that the sun globe and the sunshine are the same, but one who is situated in the sun cannot say he is in touch with the sun globe. Similarly, Krishna says that every being rests in him, yet he is not in them. So unless one is advanced, he may not perceive Krishna in his energy. So one of the devotees therefore wanted to know whether Krishna was present personally within the heart of every living entity and everywhere, or as an energy. In his energy, Prabhupada said. He then qualified his answer, also person. Person we cannot see with the present eyes, but energy we can feel. So when fully realized, the advanced devotee, he does not see anything except Krishna. So it all depends on our consciousness, how deeply rooted we are within this material world. And if slowly our consciousness becomes purified, we can perceive Krishna everywhere. I think let me just read the next part because time is almost up. Another devotee pointed out that in the Gita it says that one's body is always changing. There seems to be a principle of constancy because we see that a black man never becomes white. But we can recognize someone even though their body changes from youth to old age. So Prabhupada, what is that which is constant? Prabhupada answers that with an appropriate analogy. He says, so when you further advance, you will find there is no distinction between black and white. Just like a flower is coming out, there are many colors. So it is coming from the same source. But as such, there is no difference. But to make it beautiful, there are so many colors. In the sunshine, there are 7 colors. But from that 7 colors, multiple colors are coming out. Origin, the one color, white. And then there are so many colors coming. Is that clear or not? So Prabhupada is asking the devotees. So someone asked whether we can really say that is a good or bad choice. Krishna has created everything, and everything is submitted to Krishna's will. So Prabhupada answered that there is no good or bad. Prabhupada said, it's a mental concoction. On the whole, in the material world, everything is bad. Spiritual world, everything is good. Material means absence of spiritual world. That's all. You bring the spiritual into the material and it becomes good. Right? With all the talk of Krishna being both present and not present, and the advanced state needed in order to actually see him, the next question seemed most inevitable. Srila Prabhupada, since presently we cannot see Krishna as he is as a person, how should we meditate on him? And Prabhupada opened his eyes wide, admonishing, you do not see Krishna? Is he not in the temple? So everyone laughed and he stated the obvious. We are worshipping something vague. You see Krishna as Krishna says in the present stage, just like Krishna says, Rasoham apseya konteya. Krishna says, I am the taste of water. You see Krishna in the taste of water, then you will be making advancement. So we think water is tasteless, but you can get the taste of water. And when you see that or you experience that taste and you think this is Krishna, then you are bringing the spiritual into the material. You can be in this material world, but you can become spiritual. So this material world, which we say is the external energy of Krishna, we can Krishnaize it. We can make it spiritual. Right? So Krishna says, I am the taste of water. You see Krishna in the taste of water. That will make you advanced according to different stages. So when you drink water, why don't you see Krishna? And say, oh, this taste is Krishna. Rasoham apso konteya prabhasmi sashi suryayo. When you see the sunshine, moonshine, Krishna says, I am the sunshine. I am the moonshine. So as soon as you see in the morning sunshine, you see Krishna. So everything now in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the universal form of Krishna is elaborately described. And in that way, it's described that when you look out, the trees, they are described as the body, the hairs on the body of the universal form. The sun and the moon are the eyes of the universal form. So in that way, if we look out, we can see Krishna everywhere. And this material energy can become Krishnaized. It becomes spiritualized. It's our consciousness that we have to change. Our mindset that we have to change. And in that way, we can be in this material world, but we can be totally spiritualized. So I'm going to stop there, devotees. It's almost, it's actually 8:33, gone over time. So are there any comments or questions, anything anybody would like to add? Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Mata.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for a beautiful class. It's so obvious to hear your faith in Sri Prabhupada when you speak. It's really nice. I had one comment and a question. The comment that I wanted to make was just in regard to the sannyas ashram. I think what's in contention in our movement currently is not whether women will be sannyasis. That's a given, that women are not to take sannyas. But what's in contention is whether women should act as gurus. And that can happen in the grihastha, vanaprastha or sannyas ashram. So it's slightly, I just want to put it out there because in Prabhupada's context, what he's saying is specifically about sannyas.
Yes.
And then a question. With this idea of Varna Ashram and Varna Ashram becoming our gateway into Krishna Bhakti, and Prabhupada's comments on it, which we have to now see how to apply to where we are in life. Now, I think the best way for me to ask this question is to put myself as the example. Now, I'm an unmarried woman. My father's passed away. My spiritual master is not physically present. I'm probably what people would say at the end of what you call marriageable age. It's not even my intention. So according to Varna Ashram, I'm a hopeless case, a real hopeless case. But I don't feel that way in terms of Krishna Bhakti. Now, if I'm supposed to, Prabhupada is saying there, and I understand my question's a bit rebellious, but I think it's valid, that Prabhupada is saying then, okay, then educate the system, people, and bring men to that level, and then allow. If I sit and wait till, not that I am qualified, that's not my point, but if I sit and wait till the society becomes qualified husbands, that's not also going to happen anytime soon. So what is the practical application then of Varna Ashram? And I think that's important because when we put ideals, we tell people that they must follow these ideals, but it's a non-ideal situation. So that's my question.
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you for that. A very insightful question. But if you remember Prabhupada's instructions here, he was talking about the little children. So where society has failed, we can regenerate it, restart it from the little children, teach them the aspects of Varnashram, and then reinstate that. So while, like us, we are like outside of that system, we could regenerate it for the future, so that future, the society in future can have this Varna Ashram system and maintain it. I don't know if that answers your question, but Hare Krishna, is there anybody else that would like to give some further insight into that? Prabhu?
Thank you for the class, wonderful it was. But like a girl is protected by the father when she's young, when she's marriageable age, she gets married, the husband takes care in the Grihastha. When they turn to Vanapas, they both go on pilgrimage. When they turn to 75, now you want to send the wife to the son. Now, the daughter-in-law is the boss of the house, she don't want the mother-in-law to come there. Then what happens in that case? What do the wife do? The husband is gone now.
Actually, that's a reality. That's a reality of society nowadays, unfortunately. So, we, from a Krishna conscious point of view, that point, that is that. It's not really Krishna conscious there, because the leader or the head of the house is basically the man, the male, and like Prabhupada has instructed here, women are under the shelter of their husbands. So if they're under the shelter of their husbands, they shouldn't really be the one overpowering and domineering them. So basically, a husband and wife should practice Krishna consciousness together, and being totally surrendered to Krishna, then there shouldn't be this domineering, overpowering situation in Krishna consciousness. That's the ideal situation. But unfortunately, in Kali Yuga, everything is topsy-turvy. So, we have this situation where there is this domineering spirit. But it's only through education, it's only through reading Srila Prabhupada's books, and especially studying his purports, that one comes to this realization of, especially assimilating where you are currently. Each person, through Prabhupada's books, through Prabhupada's purports, we can understand exactly where we are and do introspection. If you have a domineering spirit, then while studying Prabhupada's books, you will understand that through your own introspection, that maybe I should, cut down a little, maybe I should, it's self-realization, but it's through knowledge. And it's only when we become knowledgeable, then our understanding, it becomes more set. We understand who we are, what we should be doing. And, and compare that to what we are actually doing. But that comes with knowledge. So that's why, we have Bhaktivedanta College, we have all our lectures, and there's so much that people are available. It's available through social media. We have lots of lectures, we have colleges, we have online lectures. Everything is available. We just have to take advantage of that. And introspection is very important to each one of us. That when we study, then we look at ourselves and ask, where am I? Where should I be? I know Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he gave this instruction that every Ekadasi, every year, that one should introspect, where am I and where should I be? Right? And I think my Guru Maharaj, he instructed his disciples that every Ekadasi, we should actually introspect, is where am I going? So introspection is important for all of us. And in that way, we'll understand, what is my position, what should I be doing, and how far am I away from what I should be doing. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. I hope that answers your question. Hare Krishna. So thank you, devotees. Vanchakalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhu bhayevacha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.